Yo, you know what's great? I think Meek is really representing a certain like side of hip hop that ain't really been represented.
Maybe that Young Black America track. That shit fire with the dream.
And that's really who he talking to.
Yeah.
Young Black America.
That shit fire.
I guess I need to listen to a Meek Mill album because I have no idea what y'all saying.
Yeah, you can
I mean, he's definitely worth the listen. I ain't
Is it alright? You know, my old ass. I'm a fan of lyricism and shit.
Yo,
so
that be the man.
You know, I ain't gonna lie. From what I've heard, not really.
Nah, he's one of the ones that's left.
Bro.
Yeah,
I don't think he listening.
Meek Mills is one of the ones that left is really doing something with his words.
Yeah,
you know
he's a wordsmith.
I like Dave East. He got wordplay. Like,
if you like Dave East,
you'll like me.
I'll give him an honest listen.
Yeah, for that.
So how y'all feel about Young Black America though? That's a segment of the world that's not really.
I mean, I ain't gotta know much about Meek to know about that, man.
I'm gonna load it up real quick. If I can take that shot.
Yeah.
Check it. So, Young Black America, the youth that don't realize what they can do. I think that's just something I should say because I met a lot of kids. They play basketball, they play sports, they run through the sports. There are a lot of smart kids out there, but some of those really super smart kids are in terrible areas and are stuck in their situation. And then therefore they get to be the poster child of the struggle of the black community.
And that's another thing. They don't really put that much money into the hood, so schools falling apart. I think I seen one story that the school had leaks all through it, so the ceilings was coming down, and the kids are still going to school like it's normal. So how do we expect people to change how things is going if they don't even have no opportunity? And then they say, that they acting like that because they're ignorant. But if you don't have no knowledge, how you gonna not be ignorant?
I mean, I think it comes down to what you do at home too. Look, I'm a product of the New York City public school system, man. I'm a fucking genius. So
then again, you lived in a different era too.
I mean, I lived in a different era, but I still was a young black man in America with little resources and outdated textbooks and mom and fucking poverty and junior high school was no picnic. Like me going up through school was no fun, all that. But I learned. I took out of it what I needed to take out, and then what I did at home was just what I did at home.
So let's take it a little bit further, right? So my father, right, 22 years in the Board of Education in New York City, he said, man, they're teaching them lies. He said to me, how can you expect a kid to sit down and pay attention for 6, 7, 8 hours a day and pay attention to lies?
But when I was a kid, I used to go to day camp every summer. You know what I mean? Presbyterian Church St. Albans Vacation Bible School day camp. Heard about. But they gave us the Bible-y stuff. But I remember there was a few people there, like they were the directors, Miss Junie. You know what I'm saying?
Now, did they give you direction?
They not only did they give us direction, but they taught us to be proud of who we are as black people. Like mind you, I'm a light-skinned cat. You know what I'm saying? The young lady I went to see in California, she's a very light-skinned cat. And of course we got made fun of a lot. It was going, you're part white.
Were you treated differently because you're light-skinned in the education system?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, but not but I think more so by the students as opposed to the teachers. You know what I mean? But
what type of things did you pick up in high school?
When I went, look, man, I stopped doing homework in 3rd grade because I couldn't fathom doing unpaid overtime. But
in 3rd grade, you realized.
3rd grade, I realized that Miss Hall came to my crib for that shit. But no, in high school, what I picked up, and I thank Mr. Sweeten for that, Frank Sweeten, Sabrina Arjun, Beth Gilbert. Like these are the teachers I had then, and George Lagon, can't forget him, Mr. Drysdale. Like these were my teachers, and they taught us from the book, but then they took the time to fucking be like, okay, now that was the bullshit. Now this is real. You know what I'm saying? They took that time. Mrs. Sweeten's white, Miss Gilbert's white, so Arjun is Guyanese, Mr. Drysdale is black. You know what I mean? But it just goes to show you that across the board, they didn't want to teach bullshit either.
Now, I don't think the kids of this day and age have that opportunity.
No.
I think it's a lot different now because I feel like the teachers now are just giving what they're supposed to give and not taking that time out to give the actual knowledge.
I mean, it was like you said, it was different back then, definitely, because we still had like things like after school programs. We still had the concept of each one teach one. You know what I'm saying? So if I didn't know something, I had somebody in class that could kind of help me out, and vice versa. You know what I'm saying?
Just keeping on education. When you study culinary, how many black people did you see in your culinary courses?
Alright, well, just to be honest, I did not go to culinary school. I definitely learned a lot of my skills in the field, but to that answer, probably not. And the question is why? What's wrong with cooking? It's not what's wrong with cooking, it's the skill that it takes, the time to take. My teacher, I was actually lucky enough to have a teacher. She's my grandmother. I'm calling my grandmother. Her name's Ellen Miller, a very great chef, and she taught me everything I need to learn. But just getting that chance to learn that much, you can compare your learning to other people's learning. And when I went to Skytop, which was one of the richest places I've ever worked, the Skytop Lodge, and it was predominantly white in that kitchen. Yeah, there's a Mexican person here, there's a Puerto Rican person there, but we sprinkled throughout. Mm-hmm. But the stigma is that black person. You know, what
Did
you
have
do.
any effect on your learning process?
Oh, yes,
your experience there?
Yeah, because what they did was they would pound you at work, and the only way you learn is when you had to suffer. You don't learn until you suffer. Either you don't want to suffer no more, or you finally pick up a book and learn something. I didn't get the same opportunity that the person from CIA got, because where they came from. You know, they went to school. I can't afford school. And around my area, they don't really focus on it. They have home ec and stuff like that.
I'm glad you said that, though, because a lot of people say, oh, it's easy to get that opportunity if you work hard, Sometimes if you need money to do anything in this country. If you don't have the capital to do something, most likely it's not going to get done. And then you can't blame the person who doesn't have the capital for the circumstances they're in if you're not going to give them the ability to get the capital. You need school to get the capital. It's like a cycle that they put you in.
A repetitive cycle of bullshit.
And then they want to blame the victim.
You're not working hard enough.
Staying on this education, Keeping, you went to vocational school, didn't you?
No, I went to Penn State. Worthington Scranton.
No.
High school? Yeah, I went to charter school.
We're not going to get to college yet. That's a whole other ballgame in its own self. But for high school, you went to charter school.
Yeah.
What did you experience there?
Honestly, I preferred the charter school to the public school because, like, I had teachers who were actually, they don't have to give the state curriculum because it's a charter school, so they give what they want to give. So I had teachers like Mr. Smith who would tell us Christopher Columbus did not discover America. Christopher Columbus was a rapist and a murderer.
So you had teachers that were able to give you more of a truth.
He was a math teacher telling me this.
He was just out here.
But then he went extra mile with the math because I was in 11th grade learning Calc 2, Calc 3.
I remember him
doing trigonometry.
I was in 5th grade learning algebra. 4th grade learning algebra.
Wow.
Like,
I'm 35. I do not know algebra.
And like he took the extra mile because he actually cared, and he was another person of color, and he's like, I'm not going to let these young black gentlemen be raised like the other young black gentlemen. I'm trying to make a difference. And God rest his soul. I'm glad he did that. What was his
name?
John Consuelo Smith.
Okay, shout out to you, Mr. Smith. Word up.
Big up to the teachers who care. Big up to the teachers who care.
You know, and I think about the teacher who cares. You know, it kind of sucks when you care sometimes, you know, because can you imagine caring so much about these students, but you can't afford to do that? Like,
you gotta maintain some sort of
you're underpaid, so you're at home struggling, and then you have to teach the curriculum because if you don't, you might lose your job at the end of the year. That gives the, excuse my French, I don't give a fuck about these students mentality.
Yeah.
And that's why let's bring it to the projects of, you know, who's fighting, and these kids are fist fighting because that's what they know. The concrete jungle, you know, this is what they know. Teacher is not gonna care that much. And let's keep it real. Like, it's not that you're a bad teacher, but you're a product of your environment, just like I'm a product of my environment.
Right.
And to get that reach, like you said, you know, you're a genius, but you said you stopped going to school at one point.
No. I cut school habitually because school bored the shit out of me.
Okay, but the question is, why is school boring?
Why was because they were trying to teach me the same repetitive bullshit that they wanted me to learn, and I didn't want to learn that.
And to bring it to the black youth, for example, would you want to go to school if the whole thing is built on top of y'all was slaves? Yeah. Some of y'all did a few things in history, but y'all definitely were slaves.
Honestly, how many of us do they talk about in history? Because I think Hannibal got a line in my social studies textbook.
No, I got more than
the new edition.
Yeah, the new edition.
I heard nothing of Hannibal.
No, I got
soft cover, the hardcover.
Hardcover.
So we got Hannibal. Like, no, I mean, I got Hannibal. I got George Washington Carver. They didn't tell us he was a eunuch, but I got that dude.
Peanut butter.
Yeah,
that's it.
Soybeans.
Great. Soybeans.
They told us about soybeans.
100 different
But the thing is,
but
give me a line about Christopher Columbus.
Well, what they taught us. All right,
just say what it is. Like
in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
What about Lincoln? Because that's definitely my number one hero.
But the truth is, like I said, I had teachers who kindly took the time to be like, no, this dude was a mass murdering, raping, pillaging piece of shit.
And if you talk to the people, the Dominican people that understand and know their culture and heritage, you talk to the Haitian people that understand and know their culture and heritage, you'll understand a little bit more about Christopher Columbus and who he was. And that only brings to the education, like, when we're young, we're taught a certain type of way, right? And you said in charter school, you experienced teachers that was trying to get, a different message across. But what type of effects does it have on us if that's all we're taught from a young age is our perception of the world? And I mentioned this to a young lady not too far ago, and it was just a perception of the map, because we're taught that America is the West, and Asia is the Far East, and we're given this picture to look at the world. And I was just like, yo, you know what? That just creates this us versus them mentality. You know what I mean? And instead of being taught a certain type of way to look at the world, and even more for black kids or anyone in the inner city or anyone that's in that school system that doesn't have the proper textbooks or doesn't have the proper resources, what type of education are they being getting? Are they being set up to fail?
Well, it's funny, we also, like, I remember growing up in the hood, we used to have this little calendar. I don't know if you remember the calendar with the African Americans.
Yeah.
We used to have that. That used to be
the 90s.
That was
that out.
No, they're still around. They are still around now. I swear to God.
There you go. There you go.
No, I went to New York.
I went to 4 different things, bro.
But that's a New York thing. That's New York because they used to get it from Bravo, the supermarket type shit.
And once again, that's just separatism, because if you think about it, wherever you're gonna find that support,
right?
That's support, but
right. You know what I'm saying? And then we got that. I mean, and then your friend, and then truth is, I learned a lot of things from my friends.
But now,
I mean, listen,
we don't have the resources.
These kids,
but not only that we don't have the resources. Let me not say it, because we have more resources than what we have.
You got Google. You better cut it out.
But they are regulated.
Yeah, so you're used to ADD and all that.
But I mean, Google don't help if you don't got no lights.
Yeah, and if you ain't got
Wi-Fi, you can't do nothing.
But hold on, and let's just be honest here. I've known many cats that may not have no food in their fridge. They ain't got nothing in their shit, but they damn sure got the Apple something, the iPhone something.
Now let me ask you something though, because we touched on this before. We have a smartphone in our hand 24/7 for the most of us. For the honestly, we all go out and get an iPhone or whatever, or type of Android or some sort of it, right? Now, for the people that have that, is the world that you live in, is that going to make you go and research things? We live in such a consumer-based society, superficial, shallow, however you want to call it. Is anything pushing you to go get this knowledge? Now, I'm not saying that there's a certain amount of accountability. An individual has to go and search his own knowledge.
Right.
But if nothing around you is supporting your search for knowledge, does that it does. It makes you attack.
There's no positive reinforcement for it. You don't get nothing in return for going. Like I like to research history. That's just because that's something I enjoy to do. If you don't enjoy to do that, there's no real reason to
for you to do that.
So if there's nothing pushing people to go do it, so why would they go learn it? And if it's not being taught in the schools, how they gonna know it?
Well, I mean, then you have to look for other avenues to learn.
You can't look. You don't know what to look for unless you know what to look for.
You're right, and what that means is you got to seek out newer experiences and different ideas.
And you're 100% right. You're 100% right. We have to search those things out. But for your high school student, and I don't know how your high school was, but for me, my first real experience, because you can hear it from people. I've always heard these things. I grew up in a community that was really pro-black. It was like we had an African community center. We had things like that. We celebrated Kwanzaa. That was a more focal point than what it was for Christmas or for anything else. So, but what it was though, you hear all those things. But my first actual experience was when I was in school in 10th grade, and I read a book. Was it To Kill a Mockingbird?
Well, Atticus Finch and the dude. And
from the lesson plan, they showed us the movie with Samuel L. Jackson. I believe it was called Mississippi Burning. Mm-hmm. Do you? Oh no! A Time to Kill.
A Time to Kill.
To Kill.
Classic film.
It was a movie that was the book. We read this, and then we watched the movie. Yeah. And I me being the only maybe one of 3 black kids in the I would look around and be like, oh, ain't nobody else
mad at this. Yeah.
This is not making y'all upset. Yeah. So if you're in that type of environment, does it not force you to kind of like ignore it or
because it's weird that you're the only one with the problem, so that means it's only you who's weird. So you outcast it, and that's what these kids learn. If you think about it, most of these kids are so aggressive because they are misunderstood.
Or they go the exact opposite, and they just fold in on themselves and they weaken. You know what I'm saying? And they can't take the life. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's not to disparage anybody who's going through a tough time to say, you're weak. No, people go through things. But at the same time, you also have to be able to stand on your own too, and you know what I'm saying.
But if you live in a society that's always attacking you, always pushing you down, it's kind of hard to stand on your own too. If you're getting your legs chopped up,
I agree. You better steal your legs.
But see, that's why
you're saying it.
But
it's
a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah, don't you think hold up this sign and we need you to stand up for what's right?
I mean, in this state, there's certain schools that privileged white people are allowed to go to that we don't even know about, that they send their kids to. They live there 7 months out the year, and they get the best education in the world.
My godson is in a boarding school up in Massachusetts. Just doing that.
The average kid in the hood does not get that opportunity. So how are we going to say?
How are we going to have these?
How are we going to have these people? How are we going to have these kids? How are we going to have these kids in the hood compete with that for jobs?
Right. And with that,
how are they going to get those same jobs if we competing with somebody who's got Ivy League schooling and you've got basic math?
Because the truth of the matter is, you can have as much Ivy League schooling as you want and still be stupid as fuck.
But
that's it's about this.
Yeah,
this
at a certain point, opportunity comes to in this society. Opportunities come to those who are set up for opportunity.
True.
Now, without a doubt, you can set yourself up for opportunity. But when the bed has already been made, the path has already been paved for you for opportunity, you start to wind up in a system that's, as we are in, you have unequal representation. Right. You have people in high authority, positions in regarding authority, and they only represent one understanding of culture, of life. You know what I mean? And you as an individual, you're not taught your actual standing in life. Right.
We're trained a stand.
I like to say program, just so people can understand that it's literally a programming to tune your mind to understand certain things. Right. But when you have your kid or your young boy or girl, and they're grown up to understand life as a certain type of way, you know what I mean? There are certain inferiority complexes that are built in the system. You know what I mean? As a kid, if you're up, your personality is being looked at in a certain type of way. Right. How you respond to teachers is looking at it in a certain type of way. Right. So how does that type of affect?
Because honestly, all the action heroes I ever saw on TV were white. I ain't never seen a black action hero until I was in Rome. So I always thought, like, when I'm making shit up in my head as a kid.
You know what? I'm gonna tell you something. There was a show. There was a cartoon back in the good old '80s. There was a cartoon back in the '80s called Cops, and the main character was a black dude named Bulletproof. And he was a straight suit. He was a superhero, and he was bulletproof, and he was a black man, and I loved that.
So and he was the chief of police. Because every time I'm making imaginary shit in my head, I'm thinking of a white dude, because that's the only thing I think I don't think
That's
black
what
people's the
James Baldwin
thug. Black people's the thug in the shit.
Yeah.
They don't want getting beat up.
And they have a perfect description.
I
I
wanna-
want to go too.
I want to bring this James Baldwin quote up because he said that as a young person you're watching what was the cowboy's name that he used? John Wayne, right? And he's hunting Indians and he's killing Indians. And you're naturally rooting for John Wayne because that's all you see is this figure of a white person being at a on a pedestal.
Right. Yeah. As a hero.
You're naturally voting for John Wayne, but then you realize you are the Indian. That's exactly what we said. You are the Indian. Right. So how do you transition into a society? And I know that we've made advances, so to speak, within our cultural, understanding. But there are still misrepresentations of black youth and black men, as well as black women and black. I don't ever want to, disclude the black as a whole.
And it's like you said, you have to check your diet. You know what I'm saying? You ever heard of a movie called "Bucking the Preacher"? No. Okay, it's a western with Sidney Poitier. It's the lead. You know what I'm saying? And he
But
played,
you're asking this from the youth to check their own diet. You don't determine that.
The world is getting the world. You better catch the. Then you better catch the fucked up because everybody got
y'all may have got the opportunity. Like I know you said your father had y'all in the Kwanzaa. I know you said your mother influenced a lot of the things you know.
My mom, my grandma,
I was in the church
pops.
from youngin up. So I became woke like 2-3 years ago. That's when I first started finding out about shit. I didn't know none of this. I never got an opportunity to see nothing. All I was thinking was Jesus is white. Moses must have been white because Jesus is white. So Abraham must have been white because Jesus is white. So I'm just thinking white people. That's the right.
And I was always the odd man out in my neighborhood for that church thing because I just didn't believe any of that. Like none of that made any sense to me.
All right, but see, no offense, is what about the average person today? Like today, because the issues today that was going on, you can't. People
you gotta see yourself as an anomaly.
People from your age time period, also in a way, it kind of hurts us because it's harder for you to see what I'm going through. No. Because you don't think that because you saw your struggle, but our struggles are different because my struggle is faster.
Much so because everything is so right there in front of you.
In comparison, you've had years to train your mind to deal with things. But tomorrow, I can step out. I'm gonna have a cell phone, so all I gotta do is swipe, and I can see that I'm the destruction in America. That I marked the destruction in America. And there's something wrong with me, and there's nothing you can tell me that unless I learn. You tell me to reach out. I can be in the first grade already. Little babies know how to work phones. So the issue today is how fast things are going, and how fast nobody is trying to stop. Or control these things because it's the youth grow up faster too. These kids are having babies younger. It is happening,
and that's a product of the hormones.
So what happens? So what happens when that kid who didn't get to grow up to an adult has a baby? Now he's a baby raising a baby. Now the cycle continues, and then what? The kid only can give that baby what he has.
And that's why we are where we are.
He gives him nothing.
So
it's not about going home and reaching about finding a new lesson. There's too much going on to say I'm gonna go home and study my math on YouTube.
No, at the end of the day, life comes no matter what.
Right.
So if you gotta grow up and be an adult, you got to just do that, and then you don't get the opportunity to learn the knowledge that you're supposed to learn. So then you, in the circumstances that you're in, and you can't change them circumstances because that's just the life you have now.
And that's the average person, not the unaverage person who does survive that position. Right. So, and if you think about it, the way project and stuff are set up, we are automatically handicapped as a kid. Our 99-cent food store, corner stores, our cigarette stores, our liquor stores, they're right there to get to. But if I have a baby and I want to do better, I want to go to the library. If I'm living in Harlem, how far am I have to go to the library to go by myself?
Depends on where you are.
Okay, so it depends where my position is. So now I'm doing this schooling, but the school's already training my mind and lies. How can I go find something new if I'm already stuck on this? You can't learn something. You can't ask a question about something if you don't know what question to ask.
9 times out of 10, mom, because it's usually mom, because we have a lot of single parent homes.
Right.
Mom can't teach you that because she's got to go to work to support you and your brother and sister.
They put pressure on the family structure, and so that it produces something. It produces a kid that's
can't.
Unknowing. Let's call it unknowing, negligent.
Right.
It produces a certain type of individual that's only focused on certain shallow aspects of life.
Right.
Why? Because you only focus on the thing that you were lacking as a kid.
Right.
If you were lacking a certain thing as a kid, wouldn't that make sense for you to grow up and want to acquire those things that you were lacking?
And
there's no one to teach you. There's no one to teach you or distinguish what is important and what not is important.
true.
And if we're
And to blame the victim is Stockholm syndrome.
I agree, and I always look at it like this: like, you know what? As an adult, I found in people like y'all something I lacked as a child. I found brotherhood. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Not to say my brothers weren't brothers, but they weren't the best. You know what I'm saying? But I found that, and it's something I craved as a child. Somebody that I can be on equal footing with, who understands where I'm coming from. You know what I'm saying? The difference is between the youth of today and the youth of my generation is y'all have so much more information, so much easily available to you right away, but you don't take advantage of it. If I had Google when I was a child, fuck.
But you know what?
I had Encyclopedia Britannica, and that shit is false.
I don't disagree, but I believe that it's just a matter of the times. You could always say, "Oh, if I had this back then."
Right.
But honestly, I think we take
there.
advantage. I do think we take for granted the ease of access to knowledge. But I feel like if we would have had the same ease of access of knowledge in the 90s, it would have been taken advantage of them too.
True, but
it's just because of the ease that it makes it seem so.
But just because you have Google, though, doesn't mean everything's going to be right. Because if you Google ugly right now, I guarantee you there's not going to be no white people in that Google image.
But what I mean
if you Google hate, you're not going to see the images you think.
But now here's a direct correlation. And when I was a kid, I grew up, I read comic books, okay? And I would read, or I read books, I read novels, I read mysteries, I read all that. When I didn't know something, I wanted to know what it was. So I went and researched and found out what it was so I could better understand what Reed Richards was doing with the fucking Ultimate Nullifier. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I wanted to know what it was, so I wanted to seek out the knowledge. Now, you're right, I was not the average kid, period, in the story. You know what I'm saying? And that's not kids nowadays, definitely, but there was another avenue for me to want to find.
But there's
knowledge.
a system making the kids like
right.
that.
What's pulling you to read those comics, or what's pulling you to have these original thoughts? Versus right now, what's making these kids not want to go and read these books? What's making these kids look at other sources of influences?
They got a much more fluoride in their system than I did.
It's kind of suffocating.
It really is.
If everybody said, if knowledge is available, the reason why you can go check a book and be like, all right, thank God, because you gotta open a book. You can't go in a library and hear your books talk.
Right.
That's not happening.
No.
So
kills.
That would creep the shit out of me.
And my brother told me, and my brother was having a conversation just yesterday, and he was telling me, he was like, yo, because he moved down to Florida, he's living out there by himself, right? So you go out there, and he's telling me, he's like, yo, you will never really realize exactly how many distractions, because his phone broke for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. He couldn't get it fixed for 2 weeks. So he had the phone, but in the morning, you know how people check their Instagram, or they check their phone, they check their apps, even if you have a CNN app.
Right.
Because I have a CNN app, I wake up, oh man, what's going on in the
every
world?
2 seconds.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But he said when he didn't have his phone, you never realize how many distractions you wake up to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So in the 90s, when kids didn't have these Google at the palm of their hand,
right. Or you had to go read the newspaper to get that.
And that might have been more beneficial back then. Now it's more of a detriment that it's so easy of access. And on top of that, how many different distractions are you presented with from the minute you wake up? From whether you're playing Angry Birds, whether you're playing, on Google, Instagram, Facebook.
Well, let's look at the direct correlation between the rise of the smartphone and
the decline of the smart person.
No, well, which is the exact what you write, and quite frankly, 9/11 is the answer to both. You know what I'm saying?
That's a whole nother episode.
It is, but we got to dive into that
real quick. I'll say it like this: 9/11 changed the world in a way that was unprecedented at the time. The world got not only infinitely smaller, but infinitely scarier.
It was the checkpoint of how they implemented certain things. There were certain things that were implemented after 9/11 that directly affect how people interact socially. Number one, the emergence of Homeland Security, the emergence of the Patriot Act, right? And then on top of that, it was the entrance into the war in the Middle East. So all of these things, they all promoted a certain amount of fear.
And then here comes social media.
I think that's on the heels of it.
But
social media.
But there's a setup to it
because that made people impersonal. It made you don't have to talk to somebody because you can just DM them on Facebook.
So if they created a problem, and they created the solution to the problem. Man, I'm scared to go outside. Oh, they bring in Facebook, Instagram, hit the market. You know what? Guess what? If I want to interact with my friends, I no longer have to go outside. So they created a problem with 9/11 and the mass hysteria and being afraid to go to. And it was more than 9/11. Don't get me wrong. 9/11 was a tipping point, I believe, but it was the Boston bombing. There was wasn't a bombing during a parade? Not parade. Marathon.
That was the Boston.
Yeah, the Boston.
That was the Boston. Sarnev.
The ones out in Paris. There's a Paris bombing and there's a train bombing in Paris. Certain things that they promote to you in the media is going to affect. Okay, you know what? I'm a little bit more scared to go outside.
I don't want to go to Paris.
Then you hit, like you said, you hit this. Now it's not only just Instagram. It's not only just Facebook. Now it's online dating, Snapchat, back pages. I don't even need to talk to you to hit. I don't even got to talk to you to hit. This was the same era from 2000. It was a process from the early 2000s.
But I say it's more the internet is what caused the problem because without the internet, none of that shit would have been implemented. So if the internet would never come around, we'd still be talking to each other. We'd still be calling. You still would know your mother's phone number by heart right now if it was not for the internet. I don't know about my mother's phone number.
I agree with you 100%.
718-949.
I believe that those were seeds.
Don't do that. My mom is dead and that phone is disconnected. I'm just saying. Now that number real dark. Oh shit.
It's going to it's a real life. But what if, for those, internet, whatever, it's like you don't have to. It didn't just start off with one thing.
I think the internet age is what caused the impersonalness. And then
what made
it developed into the millennials that live today. And now the millennials can't interact socially because they don't have to.
They have to, and they're going into it.
And then furthermore, then now you take away team activities in school, so there's no sports, there's no nothing.
You're cutting the funds on extracurricular
activities. I didn't do home ec. I got none of that
before
shit.
You change that, before you change that, right there. If I sold you your whole life, all you good are as sports, running, catching, what if I took away all those that you're good for?
What happens when the world no longer glorifies equality?
I'm not good at that.
What kind of man are you? What kind of man are you? What kind of brother are you?
Right.
If I ran track my whole life and I can't afford to run no more, I'm still, bro. I don't care what you say.
Right, I feel you.
It's something because now I need to get out, but I need a faster way to get out. Right. And if I'm only sold that I was good at sports and I'm a thug, sports, so that's how you start.
And that's why the hood is the way it is. If you have no opportunity, you're gonna do what you gotta do to make the ends meet. If I'm selling drugs, the only way you can get a job, I'm gonna sell drugs. I'm not gonna be broke.
And now the truth is, a smart drug dealer can parlay that into bigger enterprise.
Time out.
It's wrong to be a drug dealer.
I agree.
Time out.
But what do we say?
Wait, time out. Because first of all, even if it's a drug dealing, corporate companies know who to hit. So that's what causes franchising.
Right.
So if they shutting down the stores and subways and all that stuff, I am selling drugs, but we beef up the police because I've already taken money out of other funds. You ain't got no more sports. That's right. So don't you think that's like a lemonade stand to corporate businesses?
I agree.
Like, so you can't.
But then you look at somebody like Jay-Z.
No, you don't. Because like people like that,
those are anomalies.
Those are anomalies. They utilize just like Tyler Perry. They utilize that just like Tyler Perry does in all his movies. They utilize that and they sell that. But I did, and because I grew up with a parent who didn't think that was an issue. But if somebody is utilizing that to make money, that's franchising, isn't it?
Right.
So it's not the same.
Honestly, Jay-Z and them used the hood culture to get rich. So
do y'all remember the old Gap commercials?
They glorified the shooting, the killing, the drug dealing, and now if all you hear in the music is shooting,
That's
killing,
how I
and drug
made it.
dealing, and then these motherfuckers is rich talking about shooting, killing, and drug dealing. What you gonna do? Shoot, kill, and drug deal.
And go straight to jail.
And go straight because you not Jay-Z.
You're true.
You not Jay-Z, so you going to prison.
You're going to prison. You know what I'm saying? Again, you're smart. You don't get cut. But we're not going to glorify criminals because that's not good.
Like it's
But that's
the same thing. But what I'm saying is, you take your circumstances dictate actions. You take the circumstances you have, and you make something out of it. You know what I'm saying? And that goes back to being. I'm not saying stand 10 toes down. You better be able to stand on your own 2 feet.
But
you know what I'm saying?
but-
And if somebody tries to kick those feet out from under you, you better fucking jump and kick them in the neck. That's how we gotta approach this life now. I get you, but what I mean is that
like it's the easiest thing to do. These kids don't know that.
Nothing worth doing is ever easy.
If you're getting taught and all you see is the drug dealers in the hood getting money, all you see is the prostitutes in the hood getting money, all you see is the pimps in the hood getting money, what you gonna do? You gonna pimp and you gonna dress up?
I did none of those things.
No, you didn't, because that wasn't the only
and we've already
opportunity that
established you in
This is a different generation. This is a different generation as well.
And those gaps, those windows are getting a little bit more narrow.
And those things are
as
silly
time going
because
on.
very much.
And not only just because, and don't get me wrong, because we have this culture right now is striving for black excellence. I see it all across the board. There are pockets of enlightened people, conscious people being woken up, and people seeing with the world for what it is. But for the ones that haven't quite seen their eye, there's still a propaganda. There's still a facade that's being thrown over popular culture that blinds people. Mm-hmm. Now, for the ones, we sit up here on this panel, and it's easy for us to talk about certain things that we were able to overcome, because guess what? We were able to overcome them.
Right.
But for the mass majority that's not able to overcome certain things, someone has to have a voice and someone has to put a foothold and say, okay, listen, this is where we're going to draw the line. Mm-hmm. Okay, you can't keep cutting education. You know what I mean? These are certain fundamental things that we shouldn't have to talk about. We shouldn't have to fight for. We shouldn't have to argue for, debate about. Education. The funds that are going to public education schools. If this is what is available for these kids to have, if this is the education that's available, then guess what? It is your responsibility as the govening body, the one that we give our consent to, it's your responsibility to provide us with the things you need for a proper education. 2, your diet. Mm-hmm. The things that we're putting in your body. We talked about this before. If it is on us to eat right.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's our responsibility, and we have to hold ourselves accountable. I'm not telling everyone got to be a health nut, but it's on us to eat right. But at the same time, when certain different, fast food restaurants or franchises are being thrown in our face at every single block, at a certain point, it becomes the responsibility of the governing body to understand that, listen, you're going to eat what's most convenient to you when you're put in a position to work 15 hours a day.
Like, where is the nearest Whole Foods in New York?
They don't even
somewhere in Manhattan.
No, they got Manhattan, which is what the good part of New York.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah. Upper East Side, where they got that Whole Foods.
There's one on Upper West Side. There's one in Soho, I believe.
And how many people live in New York?
Right, 300 million.
Yeah.
Something crazy.
And now
don't fact check me. Don't fact
hold on. And before we even get into that, I want to go into this, and I really have to say this because New York fucks me up with this. There is not one brick and mortar bookstore in all of the 5 boroughs.
And we talked about this before about the government, and then this is the thing, because there's certain things that we give responsibility to being the government. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
we depend on them.
We allow them to take a certain amount of taxes out of our check. We allow them, we consent to them to govern us and enforce these laws, present these laws and things like that, and we go along with it. But at a certain time, we got to understand that we are the only reason why they have power. That's the number one thing. We give them consent to govern us. That is our power. I mean, the people should not fear the government should fear the people. With that being said,
heavily in the people's favor.
Act like we can do something, and they do not fear us.
Right, but some of the things that we need in place is, like you said, having these bookstores being kept open. Mm-hmm. It is on us as people to start presenting these things to the governing body as demands, as this is what we want. Because if we keep growing up and we get rid of these bookstores and we get rid of these resources, then guess what? We're preparing our kids and our future generations for failure.
And even in that, because bookstores, libraries, is somewhat becoming useless if you think about it, because that's what you have to say.
I mean, to a degree, you're right.
But that's it. That's the generation now. If a baby is using an iPhone, sorry, by 8 years old, the baby is not going to a library.
I used to look at the fun of going to the
But-
library
but
with a
because
fucking
it wasn't
adventure. I
challenging,
can
bro.
imagine kids not enjoying
Because you didn't have a
that shit.
video phone. You didn't have a
Anomaly.
video phone. And then once again, you don't know because I'm happy I was born when I was born. I'm a 90s kid, but the only reason why I'm happy because I was right on the cusp. Not only was I poor, I was a poor kid, I was right on the cusp of understanding things. The people who raised me were people like you, but the life I was living were people like me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not the average kid, you know, but
our entertainment was different. Like we had Reading Rainbow, we had
I had Reading Rainbow.
Conjunction Junction.
But-
What's that shit? Schoolhouse Rock.
But that's
You know
the
what I'm
thing.
saying?
I had that up until like 5th grade.
Thank you.
Right.
Then it disappeared.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
But the point is,
Gone.
Yes, he's around. Oh, he's around.
No, but the
Then he's on
point is-
YouTube.
living.
but he's
He's writing
alive.
books.
He's cool. He's cool because
Right.
that's classic learning. Like
That's not
he's
on
a man
YouTube.
who's
We got Love and Hip Hop.
Mr. Rogers died. Mr. Rogers died. Yeah, Fred Rogers did pass.
The way he,
How Love of Ray J.
Love of Ray J.
Come on, man.
Real
I had Living Single.
I love New York.
But
Those are better than Love and Hip Hop.
Exactly. We had quality
Look at what the kids, these are what
programming
the
that
kids are
presented
watching.
us
These are what the kids.
Right.
So if they're on TV doing that,
Come on,
how you
man.
gonna get on
A
TV?
Different World was a show about a bunch of black kids in college.
this is
And
this.
then
now,
shows
so
like
now
that
we
no
can
more.
all come to
So
agreement.
dope.
We can all come to agreement that they're no longer representing this positive.
No.
This
No,
positive.
no.
we are
It's more
targets.
of a propaganda than a
Product
positive.
placement.
And
We
there-
are product placement. Black people are products. Are products to
They
be
throw it in
placed
so you
to
see
sell
it, so-
shit.
And we'll continue this. We'll continue this very debate. You know what I mean? Next time.
Mm.
You know, for now, you know, we're just gonna end it right there.
Yeah.
You know, we touched on a lot of topics. Anybody got any final statements? Any final?
Yeah, I got one thing you said just to tie it all up. You know, once again with the knowledge, he's right. You do have to reach, and there is a generation gap, and that's real honesty. But like with social media and all that, it's an opportunity to change that, to reach for things, to reach for new things. The world may seem smaller, but the world is huge.
Right.
But it's up to you to find out.
And to piggyback off that, man, if you find that your diet isn't keeping you sustained, change your diet. And I mean by if the people who are around you aren't stimulating your growth, find new people to be around you because those are the ones that need to help build you up as well. You know what I'm saying? Foundation, baby. You have to
Follow
start.
on Instagram _Foundation 101.
Ow. And hit the Twitter, the same _Foundation 101.